Let me ask you first about Congressman Gates's pushback. I know that the story published initially, you and Michael Schmidt published an initial version of the story, and then there was fairly quickly an update to account for Congressman Gates really angrily denying all of this and making counter allegations that this is all the product of some sort of improper extortion plot. Can you help us understand what his pushback is here?
Sure. I think that to understand the congressman's statements, the most important thing to do is to look at the timeline in this investigation. What we found is that this investigation began at the end of last summer, and it's been going on for more than 6 months. So this is a serious investigation that was serious enough that even the highest levels of the Justice Department, including the Office of the Attorney General, Bill Barr, said that that it should continue. So that's the context. And this investigation, after going on for several months, what Congressman Gates is saying is that somebody then found out about it and used that information to try to get money out of his family. So I'm not saying that the extortion claims that he's making are untrue. I'm just saying that it came on the heels of months and months of an investigation in a part of the country where the offices are very small, and there should be some expectation that information does sometimes leak out of these offices. So the idea that the extortion exists or that it happened, I think that it should be seen in the context of that timeline of an investigation that's serious, brewing for a long time, bubbling out into the local community.
Now, Mr. Gates, Congressman Gates, has made this extortion allegation. He's named somebody who he says is the guilty party who's trying to extort he and his family for money to try to make this go away. And again, I have no idea about the veracity of those allegations. And as you say, with the timeline, it's important to understand that these may be two very separate stories. But the person that he's named, is that a person who was involved with the Justice Department investigation? Gates is essentially claiming that these are false charges trumped up against him, and somebody involved in trumping up these charges against him then tried to extort money from him. Is the person that he's named somebody involved in this investigation?
No, that person is not involved in the investigation. That person is currently in private practice and does not work at the Justice Department. But again, keep in mind, this is an investigation that when you look at the timeline was very serious. And it was something that's taken seriously by Trump administration officials in the Justice Department. So I think that one of the reasons why he has talked publicly about this extortion plot, one of the reasons why he has publicly said that the FBI has asked his own father to wear a wire, is in order to try to get people to not pay attention to the fact that it was in fact the Trump administration who felt it was worthy to investigate him. In publicly talking about this investigation, in publicly talking about the extortion plot that he has described, and publicly saying his father wore a wire, he is basically destroying and blowing up an FBI investigation, which is in itself something you would think would be against his own interest. You would think that he would be wanting to work with the FBI, and you would think he would want to keep this quiet. So you have to put this all into context and say that in doing this and basically blowing up an FBI investigation into people trying to extort his family, he has both complicated that investigation and also cast aspersions on something that was serious enough that Attorney General Barr approved it.
And Attorney General Barr personally approved it.
Yeah, so remember last February, Attorney General Barr put out a memo to all federal prosecutors saying that if anybody involved in the 2020 election was going to be investigated, if any members of Congress were going to be investigated, that those investigations needed to be briefed to supervisors, including the U.S. attorney in that district and whoever the AAG at the Justice Department would be, so the head of the criminal division or the head of the national security division. Those people would need to sign off on it, and then those people would brief it up to the Deputy Attorney General and to the Attorney General. So he would have known about this, yes.
Katie, let me also ask you in terms of Congressman Gates and whether he is, as you say, by his public remarks about this supposed extortion claim, whether he is blowing up a potential FBI investigation to whether there was an extortion claim subsequent to this investigation. In terms of thinking about his motivation there, can you tell us from your reporting whether the investigation into Congressman Gates is something that was resolving and not likely to head toward charges? Or is this something that either was heading toward charges or could potentially still be heading toward charges and therefore very serious criminal liability potentially for the congressman?
I cannot be in Congressman Gates's head, so I'm not sure why he would choose to do that, why he would choose to publicly disclose information that would impair an investigation that he has publicly said should be helping he and his family. But I will say that the investigation, the allegations are that he not only had a sexual relationship with a 17-year-old girl, but that he took her across state lines, which would be a federal crime, and that he gave her something of value in return. That could be money, but that also could just be travel expense or something else. That is extremely serious. And again, we don't know whether or not this will be charged. It is one reason why the Justice Department really wants to keep these things quiet, because you don't know what's going to happen. But we do know that investigators have been working very hard on the case and that they do believe that it is worth looking into.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.